it's time for me to get in here and start searching for some eggs. So I thought I would show you guys my process. So jump right on in. We're gonna be starting off with the crested geckos. These here are in a trio, which I'm hoping will produce me with some quad-stripe harlequins. While I'm searching for these eggs, I'm making sure to be extra gentle, really just peeling off one layer of dirt at a time. Here, I find what I thought was an old egg. But as I continue to dig, I actually find its clutch mate. So this tells me two things. First off, there's a baby in here somewhere with these parents. And secondly, this baby in the egg is definitely ready to hatch out. So I just start scratching it. This entices the baby to come out of its shell. However, this guy was taking too good of a nap and he was not trying to wake up. So I kept scratching and scratching until I kind of decided I'm just gonna set this to the side for now. And sure enough, the moment that I do, it starts moving and pop goes the egg. So here comes the baby. And there it goes. I continue my search for crested gecko eggs on the other side of the enclosure. This time actually finding an old egg. I do leave these in there since it's a good source of calcium for the microfauna. I do eventually find two more eggs, which you can tell have been recently laid by how white they are. And I'll be placing these with some of my other New Caledonia region eggs since they all require the same temperature. Two of these eggs already in the container are crested geckos, and the other two are gargoyle geckos. And I'll be placing these all together because I only have a trio of each species, and it really doesn't matter. What does matter is that you don't roll these eggs, so the same way that you see them buried in the ground is the exact same way that you have to put them in the vermiculite. This is the little baby that we just saw hatch right in my hand. You can still see the vermiculite on his head. And just look at that back pattern. It's almost like an S, almost like a checkerboard. It's honestly pretty awesome. This is gonna be for sure a keeper. And I did find the other baby. Since it's already going through shed, my guess is that it hatched about a week ago. It wasn't found and eaten because of the bioactive enclosure. Let's move on to the very next species, the leopard geckos. With these guys, I was really hoping to make some Supermax Snow bold stripes, but as some of you may know, unfortunately my bold stripe died. So we're just breeding these to see what we get out of them. This is my female. I'm currently checking to see if she still has her eggs in her, which she did, and I'll show you guys a close-up of what that looks like here shortly. I'm not expecting anything cool out of this pair as the female was just my pet before I started breeding, but you never know, maybe something cool will pop up. Who knows, sometimes genetics do crazy things. Now, I am still going to be checking this enclosure just in case, and mainly so that the dirt under doesn't get very compacted and it's easy for her to dig. This also helps me determine the humidity of the substrate, as you do want it to be slightly humid so that the egg can gain some moisture, but not too wet to where the egg will start to develop mold. Now let's take a look at those eggs. As you can tell, they're already kind of getting into position to be laid. They do lay two at a time, and if you can see, there's another two right above already developing. Pretty exciting stuff. I really do wonder what that albinism from the Supermax Snow is going to do to the yellowness of this carrot tail. I am still going to freshen up this other corner just in case she wants to lay there, but mainly it's so that the male can have a humidity area of his own. This egg here is from her very first clutch ever, which will be going into the incubator since they do require more heat. Now on to the gargoyle geckos. This here is another trio, and this particular female is looking like she's ready to lay eggs any day now. Stick to the end of the video so that you can see a quick compilation on all of my breeders. For this group here, I'm trying to work on the contrast between the white and the red. Unfortunately, there was nothing in this corner. However, we still do have some other spots to check. In the last couple of days, I've noticed one of the females constantly hanging out in the middle of the tank right under this leaf. So I'm really hoping that she laid some eggs for us. There was nothing there. Thankfully, we still have the last corner. I don't have high hopes since they both are looking pretty chunky. And yup, sure enough, about a week too early. Now on to the most skittish of the bunch. These are the giant day geckos. These guys can drop the tail and slaw off entire portions of their skin. So I'm really going to take an extra precaution to make sure that these guys don't get stressed and definitely don't get out of this enclosure. These here are just a pair, as I did have some issues when adding a second female. So what I like to do when having to reach in there is I'll throw a shirt over most of the opening at the top and just allow myself enough space to reach in. You can see the male here temptably looking at the exit. He's a more confident individual, even going as far as to jumping onto my hand to eat. The female, however, no matter how much I try to work with her, she does not want anything to do with me. Which is understandable, as this is more of a display species. I was really hoping to find something, as I've never actually bred these guys before. But maybe next season. Just freshening up dirt today. Oh well, let's jump into that compilation and see all the adults. This is the female, and as you can tell, she has dropped her tail in the past. And that actually happened at the beginning of the season. So my guess is that's the reason why they haven't produced. This here is the male of my crested gecko trio, followed by his two females, which don't look quite as good as he does, and that's because this species is polygenetic, meaning they have many different traits that affect their phenotype, which is why I put most of my investment in getting a really good male. This is my Super Snow male leopard gecko, which is the homozygous version of the heterozygous Max Snow gene. We won't get into genetics today, as that's an entire video all on its own, but it's very interesting. And this here, she's my female carrottail. Last but not least, we have the Gargo geckos. This one here is my female red blotch, followed by my female red stripe. Hey, take a look at her eyes. Wasn't that just crazy right there? Following the trend of the crested geckos, I'm spending most of my money on the really nice male, like this one here. Not because it's gonna throw out random babies like the crested geckos, but because it could spread more of its genetics to more partners. Thank you for your time, I appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe so you can see what these babies end up looking like. Other than that, I'll see you on the next one.